I want you to imagine something for a moment. Think about the last time you felt real anger, that burning, intense emotion, but you didn't let it out. Maybe you clenched your jaw, pressed your lips together, or just stared blankly and told yourself, "I'll just let it go." But that tension didn't disappear, did it? It settled deep inside you, hiding in the corners of your chest, whispering quietly in your mind. That's repressed anger. It's not the explosive, loud kind we often imagine. It's the quiet one we think we've controlled. But in reality, it controls us in ways we rarely notice. Psychologists estimate that nearly 1/3 of adults habitually suppress their anger instead of expressing it openly. And this isn't just a minor issue. It affects our emotions, our relationships, and even our physical health. But what's truly fascinating is why we do it and what happens when we keep holding it in. At its core, anger is a signal. It's our mind's way of telling us that something in our environment or within ourselves is being threatened, ignored, or dismissed. But when we repress it, we cut off communication with ourselves. We say, "I won't let myself feel this," and we bury the emotion. Yet buried emotions don't just vanish. They fester. They shape our decisions, our moods, even our subconscious reactions. What makes repressed anger so dangerous is how it disguises itself. You might think you're feeling sadness, anxiety, or guilt, but underneath, it's often anger that's been denied expression for weeks, months, or even years. Psychologists call this displaced emotion. The energy of anger is too powerful to ignore, so it transforms into irritability, passive-aggressive behavior, or even self-doubt. There's a theory called the frustration-aggression hypothesis. When our goals are blocked, anger naturally arises. But if we keep denying it, it doesn't disappear. It circulates internally. Imagine a pot of water on a stove. If you remove the lid but don't turn off the heat, it will eventually boil over. That's what happens with repressed anger. Sometimes it seeps out in small, almost invisible ways: a sarcastic remark, a sigh, an unexplained mood swing. Other times it erupts unexpectedly, catching everyone off guard. But there's something even more subtle happening. Repressed anger changes how we see ourselves and the world. When we deny our anger, we start to doubt our own needs, our rights, even our values. We tell ourselves, "I shouldn't be upset. I must be overreacting. Maybe I'm just too sensitive." Over time, this internal message erodes self-esteem. Outwardly, we appear calm. Inwardly, we're restless. And yet, this repression feels safe. Expressing anger feels risky. Maybe we learned as children that anger is unacceptable. Or maybe we faced punishment or rejection when we expressed it. So we adapt. We learn to hide our fire. And slowly, it shapes how we move through life. What's remarkable is that repressed anger isn't just destructive, it's revealing. It holds clues about boundaries we never set, needs we never voiced, and experiences we never fully processed. Carl Jung, a pioneer of analytical psychology, described repressed emotions as forming a shadow, a part of ourselves outside our conscious awareness, yet influencing everything we do. This shadow isn't evil, it's unintegrated energy. The moment we recognize it, we gain insight not just into our anger, but into the choices we make, the people we let into our lives, and the patterns we repeat without realizing. Think of it like this. Every time we push down anger, we're stacking bricks in a wall between ourselves and the world. Some bricks are small, some are large. With each one, the wall grows taller. The distance between our true feelings and our daily actions widens. The world starts to feel colder, more frustrating. But when we acknowledge the bricks, when we see and understand them, They stop being barriers and start being guides. Each brick tells a story. Why you reacted that way, what you needed, what was denied, and what you might reclaim. Now, here's a pattern I often see in people who struggle with repressed anger. They live in what psychologists call emotional suppression loops. It's subtle. A person feels irritation. They push it down. It resurfaces as self-criticism. Then they feel guilty for even feeling frustrated. And the cycle repeats. Over time, this loop creates a quiet but pervasive tension, the kind that shows up as chronic stress, physical discomfort, or a vague sense that something is off. Science backs this up. Research shows that people who habitually suppress anger are at higher risk of cardiovascular issues, immune problems, and chronic pain. The psychological effects are just as profound: impaired decision-making, reduced emotional resilience, and strained relationships. This isn't about weakness. It's about energy that hasn't been expressed constructively. And here's something curious. Repressed anger is often tied to empathic overextension. Many who hold anger inside are highly attuned to others' feelings. They prioritize harmony, avoid conflict, and often act as emotional caretakers. On the surface, this seems admirable. But underneath, their own needs become invisible, silenced by a fear of rocking the boat. Yet, despite these challenges, repressed anger isn't a trap. It's an invitation, a doorway, to understanding ourselves on a deeper level. When approached consciously, it becomes a teacher. Reflect on what makes you angry. Why do you feel restricted? What experiences trigger hidden frustration? These questions can reveal patterns you never noticed. This isn't about exploding or acting out. It's about integration, acknowledgement, and healthy expression. Consider this. What if those moments when you feel inexplicable tension, irritability, or fatigue aren't random? What if they're signals from your mind and body telling you that there's anger that needs attention? Not the loud, stormy kind, but the quiet, simmering anger that's been politely ignored for years. Understanding this can change how you navigate stress, relationships, and even how you see yourself. Repressed anger doesn't just live inside us. It shapes the energy we bring into the world. It affects how we respond to challenges, how we communicate, even the emotional climate around us. It's the anger behind the polite smile, the irritation under the calm tone, the tension in every reluctant agreement. Recognizing it doesn't just free us, it frees those around us from the unconscious patterns we perpetuate. So if you've ever snapped over a small annoyance, felt tired after an interaction, or held a grudge that felt disproportionate, you might be witnessing the echoes of repressed anger. And here's where it gets fascinating. The process of acknowledging and integrating anger is deeply philosophical. It's about confronting the parts of ourselves we've been told to hide. It's about understanding our needs and giving voice to the silent stories within us. Some of the most profound growth comes from meeting these suppressed emotions and letting them teach us. Anger, when integrated, becomes clarity. It becomes a guide showing us what matters, what boundaries we need, and what patterns we must change. But to do that, we must first stop fearing anger. We must see it not as an enemy, but as a signal, a whisper from the deepest part of our psyche. I want you to try a small experiment. The next time you feel irritation rising, before you push it down, pause. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What need am I denying? What boundary is being tested? That simple act, over time, begins to unravel years of silent suppression. It starts the work of integration. And integration isn't just about emotion. It's about authenticity, agency, and presence in your own life. Once you begin noticing repressed anger, you'll see it's woven into nearly every decision. You make choices about relationships, work, even daily habits, all subtly influenced by anger you never gave a voice to. It's like discovering a hidden character in the story of your life, one that's been silently writing chapters behind the scenes. Psychologists call this the unconscious emotional current. You don't actively think about it, yet it pushes and pulls, shaping your behavior in ways that feel natural or inevitable. But once you acknowledge it, you can interact with it consciously. You can ask it questions. You can learn from it. In that process, anger transforms from a silent saboteur into a companion, a guide, a teacher. Let's explore why repression happens. Many of us grew up in environments where expressing anger was discouraged. Maybe you were told, "Don't be angry, it's rude," or "You'll hurt someone." Maybe you saw loved ones holding back their feelings, modeling calm on the outside while storms raged within. The message was subtle but persistent. Anger is unsafe. Anger is unacceptable. So the mind adapts. It hides, buries, and redirects the energy that can't be safely expressed. But here's the paradox. Denying anger doesn't make life safer. It often makes it more complicated. Research shows that chronic suppression of anger correlates with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and insomnia. The energy of anger refuses to vanish. If it can't move outward safely, it circulates inward, causing tension, fatigue, or subtle resentment. Yet there is hope. Studies all show that acknowledging anger in safe, structured ways reduces stress, improves relationships, and brings emotional clarity. This isn't about yelling or lashing out. It's about recognition, articulation, and release. Journaling, mindful reflection, or creative expression can help. By giving form to what was silent, we reclaim a part of ourselves that's been lost. Here's a subtle truth many overlook. Repressed anger often comes from unmet needs. Not just big needs, but small everyday ones: respect, acknowledgement, fairness, simple consideration. When those needs are ignored and the resulting anger is silenced, the mind begins to normalize the deprivation. Over time, this leads to a kind of chronic invisibility, where a person questions their own significance or validity. And that's when anger becomes the silent engine of dissatisfaction, fueling self-doubt, frustration, and disconnection. But there's a powerful lesson here. Anger is information. It's a signal telling us where our boundaries have been crossed, where we've compromised too much, or where our values have been ignored. It's not an enemy to suppress, but a guide to understanding ourselves more fully. And when approached consciously, it becomes transformative. Imagine this. What if, instead of seeing anger as something to avoid, you saw it as a teacher? Every irritation, every simmering frustration becomes a map pointing toward an area in your life that needs attention, healing, or adjustment. As you integrate anger into your awareness, it loses its destructive power. It becomes energy you can harness for clarity, creativity, and even compassion. One fascinating aspect of repressed anger is how it interacts with relationships. People who hold anger inside often project it unconsciously, not as direct aggression, but as tension, criticism, or distance. They may appear calm and agreeable, but others sense a subtle barrier. It's as if the body and mind are whispering truths the voice refuses to speak. Ironically, by suppressing anger, we can create the very conflict we hope to avoid. The antidote is awareness and gentle expression. Not every anger needs confrontation, but every anger deserves acknowledgement. Psychologists recommend starting with reflection. What am I really feeling? Why does this provoke me? What need is being ignored? Once we answer these honestly, We can choose whether to act, release, or transform that energy. The power lies in conscious choice, not suppression. Repressed anger is tied to authenticity. When we deny anger, we deny a part of ourselves. We tell ourselves some feelings are illegitimate. Over time, that self-denial becomes a source of internal conflict. But when we recognize and integrate anger, we reclaim integrity, presence, and the ability to live in alignment with our values. There's a poetic truth here. Anger, when acknowledged, is rarely violent. It's a quiet, persistent insistence that we matter, that our experiences are valid, our boundaries deserve respect. It's the energy that fuels self-protection, advocacy, and even deep creativity. Many artists, writers, and philosophers have drawn on this silent fire, transforming personal frustration into works of insight, empathy, and beauty. Here's something you might not have considered. Anger is temporal. The longer it's repressed, the more distorted it becomes. What started as simple frustration can, over years, become a tangled web of resentment, projection, and regret. But the moment we acknowledge it, even softly, internally, we begin to untangle that web. The energy flows again. The mind and body breathe more freely. Repressed anger is deeply human. It's not a failure or a flaw. Every person experiences it. What differs is whether we're willing to meet it with curiosity, reflection, and compassion. There's courage in noticing, naming, and understanding anger. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and self-respect. It's a practice, a form of emotional literacy that can transform how we live and relate to others. And here's a psychological insight that might surprise you. Expressing anger constructively actually strengthens empathy. When we recognize our own feelings, we become more attuned to others. By honoring our boundaries, we learn to honor theirs. By articulating our internal tension without judgment, we develop a language of connection, not conflict. Anger, paradoxically, becomes a bridge, not a barrier. Finally, let's step back and see the bigger picture. Life is, in many ways, a process of learning to navigate the silent currents within us. Repressed anger is one of those currents, often invisible, yet incredibly powerful. It shapes our perception, our decisions, our emotional experience. But it's also a doorway, an opportunity to engage with ourselves more honestly, to reclaim energy, and to cultivate deeper empathy and wisdom. So I leave you with this. The next time you notice irritation rising or a tension you can't name, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what is this feeling really trying to tell me? What boundary or need is unacknowledged? How can I meet this part of myself with compassion? In that simple act lies transformation. It's the moment where silent energy becomes conscious insight, where anger ceases to be a shadow and becomes a source of clarity, presence, and emotional depth. Because at the heart of the psychology of repressed anger is this truth: our emotions are never enemies. They are messages, guides, mirrors, reflecting the richness of our inner life. To ignore them is to live half-aware. But to meet them, to integrate them, is to live fully awake, fully human, and fully engaged with the world. Repressed anger isn't something to fear. It's something to notice, understand, and respect. It's the whisper of our own authenticity, calling us to pay attention, to reclaim our energy, and to live with deeper awareness. It teaches us that even the quietest fire can illuminate the path towards self-knowledge, emotional freedom, and the courage to be truly ourselves. Because in the end, acknowledging repressed anger isn't about losing control. It's about gaining connection with ourselves, with our emotions, and with the world we inhabit. And that connection, subtle and profound, can transform not just our inner life, but the way we move through life with grace, insight, and presence.